So which NFL team are you buying low on this year?
I mean, I'm going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars here. There's a couple teams I could go with here, but the Jaguars are the team. And again, it comes back to some of the stuff we've already said about Liam Cohen and how he did in Tampa Bay last year. That offense, first of all, the roster as a whole, they were picking fifth last year, right? In the 2025 NFL draft. They are not the fifth worst team in the NFL last year. They just weren't. And obviously there were so many injuries, Trevor Lawrence, chief among them, but they've been so disjointed as a franchise that they haven't had enough stability to maximize the talent that they've had. There are some dudes on that defense, man. I mean, they've got a damn good pass rush, two of the better edge guys in the league in Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker. They got one of the better sets of linebackers in the league. They have got playmakers on the defensive sides of the ball. If the offensive line can even be decent, you've got an offense with an extremely deep backfield with Travis Etienne. You've got Tank Bigsby. They've added two rookies in Bashal Tutin and LaQuint Allen, a late round pick out of Syracuse. That I think that backfield is going to be just fine in a bunch of different roles they can play, a bunch of different guys with different skill sets. And you got Brian Thomas Jr. coming off an incredible rookie season. And oh, by the way, you just added Travis Hunter to the mix on both sides of the ball. So I never thought they were as bad as they looked last year at times. And I think Liam Cohen, what he's going to bring to the offense, I have no idea what he brings as a head coach. That's my biggest concern for the Jaguars, is that he has very quickly worked his way up the coaching ladder a year or two at a time. He's had like 4 or 5 jobs in 4 years, Liam Cohen has, and now he's in the big chair. And so now it's going to be a matter of, okay, you've been a great offensive mind. You've been great, with the X's and O's part of running an offense. How are you going to do in the CEO role? How are you going to do managing the things from a game management, game day perspective, a whole, organizational standpoint as a head coach? That's the stuff we don't know yet. But I just think he's going to transform this offense. I think if he can do anywhere close to what he did with Baker Mayfield last year with Trevor Lawrence, who has obviously all the talent and physical tools in the world, and if they can stay healthy, that offensive line just has to hold up a little bit. And I think the Jaguars are going to remind people that they shouldn't have been picking top 5 last year. They're not that bad of a football team. And I think they're in a very winnable division.
2 quick things about the Jaguars offense. Number 1, Bishal Tutin is this year's Bucky Irving if he can hold on to the damn ball.
Please.
Secondly, from weeks 13 through 18, Brian Thomas Jr. had the 3rd most catches and the 3rd most receptions in the NFL and was top 5 in touchdowns. And his quarterback was Mac Jones. That guy is utterly ridiculous. He is a mutant. We all talk about Malik Neighbors. I think Thomas had a better season. I thought he was the best rookie receiver. So
he put up better numbers with Mac Jones than he did with Trevor Lawrence as his quarterback.
That's ridiculous.
So they've got some dudes. It
means Mac Jones is better than Trevor Lawrence, I think. 100%.
It means their scheme needs a little bit.
Well, there's your poll quote.
Yeah.
Just a general question about the Jaguars. Do you think Travis Hunter plays more snaps on offense or defense this year?
He should play more snaps on defense. I don't know what he'll do.
Should play more snaps on defense, and I think it will be more on defense, at least right away. I think he'll be heavily involved in specific things on the offense, but I think it's going to be easier to plug him in on defense and leave him there more often, and it'll be very intentional on offense until they find wherever that tipping point is in terms of his workload.
They don't have anyone else who can do what he can do on defense. They don't have cornerbacks like that. They have receivers who are good enough. I mean, this is why you trade up, to me.
And like Luke mentioned, they have a good pass rush coming in next year with Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen. That and having a really good defensive back go hand in hand. So I kind of agree that Travis Hunter should be used more at cornerback next year.
And it's so much harder to find an elite shutdown corner than it is to find a really, really, really good wide receiver. And they already have one. They already have Brian Thomas Jr. They don't need a number 1 receiver. They need that shutdown corner to be there. And I think he'll be much more valuable to them on that side.
Especially a young shutdown corner, because that's a position where you hit 27, 28, you start falling off a cliff very, very, very quickly.
And you get really expensive before then.
Yeah. You get expensive, then you get hurt, then you're gone.
All right, Doug, what team are you buying low on?
I'm going with the Chicago Bears, and it's not because of Caleb Williams per se, although I thought Caleb Williams looked really good this preseason. It's the interior offensive line with Drew Dahlman and Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson. But really, and we are sleeping on this, guys, their defense is going to be an entirely different beast. You got Dennis Allen with all his pressure looks up front, all the tight man coverage. They've got the guys to do it, and they brought in some people who I thought were very underrated last season. They had Javon Dexter Sr., who I thought really kind of made his claim to being a starter last season. They've still got Montez Sweat. They brought in Grady Jarrett. They brought Deo Obenyo in from the Colts, who's one of the most underrated edge rushers over the last 2 seasons that I've seen. You've got Jalen Johnson, who's got an injury issue, but is one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. Kevin Byard, Jaquan Brisker in the safety rotation. You've got TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds. Their defensive coordinator, I think, resigned week 3, so Matt Eberflus had to take over. That's never going to give you the best sort of situation for your personnel. They were much better on defense than they much better with personnel than they were with result. I think that will really flip, and I think the Bears could be a playoff team in what is a brutal division, but in every division things turn from year to year, and I'm on the Bears more for their defense than for their offense.
When I'm buying low, I'm looking at a team that is their over-under for wins is 6.5. I'm going with the Raiders. You got Geno Smith. You got Brock Bowers year 2. They have a lot going for them. Great guys on defense, perhaps a defensive player of the year candidate in Max Crosby. So 6.5 wins for that team. I think that's probably baked in because they're in such a tough division in the AFC West. But I think the Raiders I'm going 9 wins, and that's 2.5 more than that win over-under for their wins. So buying low on the Las Vegas Raiders.
If the division wasn't such a bloodbath, I would agree with you, but it's a gauntlet.
I keep wanting to think that the Broncos regress, but I remember how good of an offseason they had building that defense.
And Sean Payton's a great coach.
Yeah.
It's not as fluky as it kind of seemed.
Yeah. Because Bo Nix year 2, you could say, make the argument, maybe the offense isn't the same as it was, but that defense is going to be
they're a monster.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Very well-rounded team. They got good receivers. They got good everything.
In terms of teams that you are a little more skeptical on, which teams are you selling high on this year? Doug, we'll start with you.
I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings, and it's one obvious reason. I don't know what JJ McCarthy is or is not. I thought he looked okay in the preseason. I thought Kevin O'Connell schemed him up pretty well, and Kevin O'Connell's the best offensive coach in the league. I've been saying that for a couple of years. He is out McVay. He's out Shanahan. He's the man. So whatever JJ McCarthy is capable of, I think you'll see it. I just don't know how much of that there is. I gave him a low 2nd to high 3rd round grade based on his college tape. And that was another situation where he was set up about as well as he could have been. I'm not going to claim to know 1/100th as much about offensive football as Kevin O'Connell does, but it kind of feels like he talked himself into McCarthy when he probably should have stuck with Darnold and maybe seen where that went. The Vikings do have everything else. They have a great defense with Brian Flores. They've got the run game. They've got the receivers. The offensive line is okay, which is another reason McCarthy might struggle. But I go back to the quarterback and I don't know. And it wasn't a situation where I don't know, but at least I was high on his college tape. It's more, I don't know. And I've never really seen what I would want to see from a quarterback that you're asking to take over a franchise that has Super Bowl expectations. I'm not there with him. I don't know that I ever will.
I don't believe in JJ McCarthy. He just doesn't look the part to me. But you know what? Brock Purdy didn't either. However, he was the last pick in the draft, and he's kind of just...
Purdy came in with an unnatural ability to read defenses and throw guys open, and it was all the little things you couldn't really tell until Brian Greasy got a hold of him after they took him with that last pick in the draft. And then they went, oh my God, he's 5th-year NFL veteran above the neck. A lot of times you don't really know that until you get a guy. O'Connell's had McCarthy for over a year, so we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you, Doug, on McCarthy. I think he's gonna have to be somebody for the Vikings that we never saw him be at Michigan, and that concerns me. I don't necessarily think he can't do it because I think the physical tools are there. But when you're asking a guy to jump to the NFL and now be a bigger part of the engine that drives the offense and drives the team's success than he had to be in college, I think that's risky business. Not that, again, I don't think he's got the playmakers around him. I think the defense is there. They've quarterback proofed that team probably as best as they could this offseason. But he's just such a wild card. I don't see it. The team for me is the Dallas Cowboys, and I don't know how much I need to say other than that for 3 decades, the expectations of that team's success or standing in terms of how good they are relative to the rest of the league has never met reality, ever. And so I think that, again, the way Jerry Jones operates and the way he speaks about his franchise, like he's a brilliant businessman who's created a very valuable thing in his franchise. But if it's about winning games and winning championships, it's not. He's not gotten the job done, and it's not changing anytime soon because we're seeing the way he operates with the whole Micah Parsons thing. Even just waiting till the 11th hour for extensions on Dak and CeeDee Lamb, like. It's just an organizational thing that I think that the expectations for that team are always going to far outweigh the product we get on the field. And it starts at the top. I think it's going to take a complete structural overhaul to get an actual general manager who can actually build a roster and not have a locker room culture that looks at what's happening with Micah Parsons and goes, if that guy can't get paid on time, what are any of us doing here? Like, and so we can get into the nitty gritty about the fact that they don't really have a running game and they're trying to rebuild the offense. And now they bring in George Pickens, and how is that going to impact the chemistry of things? Is he going to be able to finally maximize his talent without, ending up fighting blockers 18 yards out of bounds? And can the defense stay healthy? They've had some serious injuries on that side of the ball. I think they're going to miss Tank Lawrence a lot, especially as a run defender. There's just so much with that team that they're like, oh, they're the Cowboys. They've got Dak. They've got a shot. I just think they're going to continue to underwhelm every single year, and that includes 2025.
If Jerry's such a brilliant businessman, why does he keep waiting too long and having to overpay all his best players and still polluting the lot? It takes a special kind of genius, I guess, to overpay all these guys and still pollute the environment in the process. He's George Steinbrenner,
but Steinbrenner at least knew when to give someone else. Like, he was a media asshole, but he still won. Steinbrenner still had wherewithal.
Jerry gave Jimmy Johnson the reins for a while. He gave Bill Parcells the reins for a while, but it never lasts because eventually, we're good again. Well, now it's me.
Well, and when Jerry was talking about, it was whatever, that fan event or whatever, when he was talking about Micah Parsons, it started to bring up like, he was injured and maybe we don't do it. Like, Jerry Jones talks about his team like they are a perennial Super Bowl contender still. And my favorite stat about the Dallas Cowboys is that the last time they won a Super Bowl was the same year that Sheryl Crow beat Green Day and Counting Crows for Best New Artist at the Grammy Awards. So, like, he thinks his franchise is something that it's not. They haven't won a damn thing since that was the reality we lived in. And he operates as if they are in the conversation every year. And they're just not. They're just not that good of a football team.
Not quite Jethro Tull over Metallica for best metal, but that's pretty close.
I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks. Honestly, I didn't even know that I was selling high on them until I saw your guys' predictions. But, I'm not a Sam Darnold guy. He's not as good as Geno Smith. They lost DK Metcalf. Cooper Kupp's getting old. I just don't think Seattle has it. To see them as a division winner to me is absolutely crazy. So I'm definitely selling high on the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, they got a good backfield. I think they've improved the offensive line a little bit. The defense is going to be good. Always going to be good with Mike McDonald. Yeah, I think it says a lot more about the defense and a lot more about the rest of that division, which I just don't think is going to be very good, especially if Matthew Stafford can't stay healthy. I think they'll win it by default and with really good defense. I'm also not a big Sam Darnold guy, and I don't understand how they approach this offseason at all with the moves that they made, particularly on offense. It was very confusing to me too, Steve. I really do just think that I think the 49ers continue to regress. I think the Cardinals are still not a very good football team. And I think the Rams, if Stafford isn't around for any sort of time, I think they've got a great young defense, but I just don't believe in the rest of that offense. So I think they win it by default.
I think when you look at what John Schneider tends to want, who's been their GM since 2010, and now he's more in charge, obviously with Pete Carroll gone, he wanted Andy Dalton bad. He wanted Ryan Tannehill bad. He signed Matt Flynn to a mega deal and then kind of backed into Russell Wilson for the last decade. This is kind of the quarterback he wants. He wants a guy who doesn't cost a lot.
He already had that guy. He was Geno.
And won't win you games and is kind of in this unspectacular middle. I think he saw Geno as a quarterback with too much variance. I'm not arguing for.
Oh, I know your team, Geno.
I'm saying this is the basis of it.
Darnold couldn't solve that Rams defense. That's the last thing I'll say so we can move on. But that Rams defense absolutely crushed him in the playoffs. So bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah. He sees ghosts.
Yes.
Ghosts.